Hi guys, Nigel Farage is very good at his job. Not the one as MP for Clacton or the GB News host, no. What I mean is he's very good at two things in particular. One of them is to weave truth and lies together to be presented as an attractive narrative. And the second is convincing people to be angry about things they don't understand. So in a few months' time there will be local elections. However, some will not take place due to boundary changes, merging of different constituencies, and others are expected to be postponed. This is something quite normal and happens all the time. But Farage has managed to weaponize the issue for what I believe are two reasons. Have a listen.
So we've got county council elections coming up on May the 1st in Essex, or do we? Or do we? What I do want to say, and thank you for coming along on a Friday night in such numbers from this area, but what I do want to say is we do need more men and women to come forward to stand as candidates for local council and for government at whatever level. And after this event there'll be tables outside where you can express an interest, and we will vet you, which we didn't do terribly well last time round. In fact, it was probably quite near a catastrophe, but never mind. It was a brand new organisation. I said I would democratise and professionalise this party, and we are doing it. So please come forward in numbers. We need good folk to stand up to represent their local community. Now, there are 1.1 million voters, eligible voters in Essex, who should be going to the polls on the 1st of May. And yet, the Labour government have decided they're going to completely change the structure of local government. They'll get rid of district councils and county councils, replace them by a series of unitaries. Essex will have between 3 and 5 unitaries, and then a mayor will be over the top of all of it. Now, whether you agree with these changes or not, and I'm sceptical, I've got to tell you, I'm very sceptical. I think that some of the smaller district councils that represent the more rural areas and the small towns will finish up actually being governed by the priority of the bigger cities. So I'm concerned about it. But whether we do it or not, shouldn't we have a debate about it first? Yes. Should we have a conversation about it first? Yes. And how extraordinary that it's the Conservative-led Essex Council that have asked for these elections to be cancelled for perhaps up to 2 years, when it's going to take at least 3 years for the changes to take place, and the term's only 4 years. There is not a single good excuse for any of the 20 million eligible voters in the English counties, not a single valid excuse for any one of them to be denied their vote on May the 1st this year. Not one.
Okay. Notice to use the language cancel here instead of postpone. He even said that it's going to be postponed. He said, for 2 years. Anyway, so what is this all about? This is about Farage trying to convince his supporters to get out there and campaign harder. This is not... Farage, look, he knows that the Labour Party talked about this before the general election. They said, what we want to do is we want to change councils, we want to change local government, we want to implement a massive reform. So he knew about this. Did he bring it up at the time? No. He was talking about immigration. So he can't complain about not having a debate, because he didn't engage in a debate about this before the general election. And Labour were talking about this before July. So he can't complain about that now. This is the responsibility of central government. Now, if Nigel Farage was in power, he would be implementing similar changes, no doubt. Changes perhaps that would suit him. So he can't complain that the central government is doing the job of central government. But once again, this is about getting people angry, convincing his supporters to get out there and campaign harder, because there's this belief, and he's of course pushing this idea, that democracy is being stolen, that democracy is under threat, and the only party that will truly defend it is Reform UK. So as I said at the beginning, there are two things here he wants to do. He wants to convince his supporters to get out there and campaign harder, because there's this threat to democracy. And of course, the other is the threat to democracy that is trying to sell to the public, that Labour are afraid of reform, the Conservatives are afraid of reform, and that's what they're doing. They're denying people the right to vote. They're denying people access to change to their councils or whatever, the formation of those councils, in order to protect the status quo. This is not true, but we're talking about Nigel Farage here. So he's whipping up anger against the incumbent party, the government, and the other opposition party, the Conservatives, in order to convince people who may be sitting on the fence or who are not interested in coming out to vote in local elections that they have to come out. This is an opportunity for him to deliver a bloody nose to both the Conservatives and Labour. But he needs people to come out. And what better way to convince people to come out is to make them angry. I don't know if it's going to work. It will certainly work with people who are already considering voting for reform. But as we've seen at local elections so far, they're not doing very well. The polling is really good. The national polling is very good. But local elections have not resulted in a significant number of seats for reform. It's pretty dismal, actually. So he needs to make people angry, and angry people will come out and vote. But I don't know if this is going to work. At least not yet. That could change. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.